Thank you. And that's via Angelo, because as I said, my biggest fear happened that the tech went wrong. So please bear with me as I have to ask him to carry on with another slide. Before I do, I'd just like to say, yes, Denise and I have known each other a long time. I'm about 18 months behind Denise's setup business. Mine was October 2005, which actually I launched at a particular time, which would have been my mum's birthday, although sadly she'd passed away 3 years earlier. So it's a very special time for me, always in October. What I have done is put together, and there will be some overlap because both of us, work as business women. But what is new for me, one Sue's already mentioned, is the new book, which I'm going to get self-published. So that's a whole new world for me. It's very difficult now to get textbooks published. So I'm going to go it alone and self-publish. So watch this space. I'm hoping to have that completed probably by, well, let's put November on. That's the date then. I've also rebranded. I've now got someone working with me who's rebranded. And I think Denise did say it, but if not, I'll say it again. What you can't do yourself, get someone else to do. And that goes back again to the costings. There's no way I could have redesigned my website the way it looks now to where it looked over a year ago. So please don't be afraid. There are people out there who they're very quick because this is what they do for a living. Next slide, please, Angelo. So I started off with a vision. I had decided that all the teaching I was doing and other things I could actually put into a business. So I had to look at what they call your USP, your unique selling point, and have a business plan. It was very small at the beginning. I had help with that. I'll tell you how in a moment. But one thing I had to get my head around was a professional image. And I'm not talking about how I come across being honest and welcoming and evidence-based, but even simple things like what I wear. I wear different outfits for different roles. And I've put some photos in, so you'll see that. I just highlighted a couple. One was about being proud and realistic. And in all my books, I've always put that I know my parents would be proud and realistic. And Denise kindly mentioned about families as well. And they always get a mention because without my family support, this would never, ever have happened. They're there when I need them. They're at the back. I don't know if my family are watching tonight, but they may well be. If not, they'll hopefully catch it up later. What we didn't really mention was about how you set your business up. Now, I'm a sole trader. There is only me. Succession planning, Denise and I have talked about a lot because we're both getting a little more mature and we both who's going to take over? Are we going to sell the businesses to someone else or how are we going to do it? So you're not all going to be at that age yet, but this is 20 years. So I was sort of mid-40s when I started. Well, you can guess now I'm mid-60s. And at the moment, I still have the passion I had at the beginning, but I'm realistic as a sole trader. And there are, as you can see on that, lots of other options, but that's where I am at the moment. I'm a sole trader. Next slide, Angela. So knowing your customer base, and again, I'm only going to pick out a few bits from this because it's available for anyone to look at. The advertising and marketing, and I have to thank Denise, she's been really good at nudging me to be out there. I am very realistic, but I'm not always good. And even though I've been doing it for 20 years, about saying, you really want me because... And I'm getting better at it, but we're not used to that in the NHS. We don't know, my antenatal class is as good as someone else. No, it's not. That's why you want me. So it's selling ourselves, which we've never been good at doing in the NHS. It's never been something that we thought, we should be doing. The website I mentioned, social media, I've got better over the years. I'm on most social medias now, but they're not my pet favorite thing to do, so I have to nudge myself every now and again to do it, but it's out there and at least people can keep in contact with me. Where to work? Now, this is my home. This is my spare bedroom with lots of Indian scarves behind me because I like colour. I'm a real colour person most of the time. So this is sanctuary to me, but this is work. I will probably be in my office by 8 a.m. most mornings, checking emails because they come obviously from all around the world. So time differences and everything. Even as I know Denise has done, we get up at weird times to do teaching, which fits in with them, and we vice versa. So I've certainly been teaching at like 6:45 in the morning, UK time, and also at 10 o'clock at night. So it isn't a 9 to 5 job, even though we are self-employed. Costing, Denise said, not just costing ourselves, but all the equipment. I don't think we really appreciate simple things like costing of photocopying, if that's your thing, although nowadays most people don't tend to photocopy much. I can send it out on an email. But having a separate phone, which I do for work, I don't have the same one, so home and work are separated. But all the equipment, one of the tech problems today, I think, is because my poor computer's getting old. So I have a new one on order. I'll have to shut everything down while it's upgraded for me. But my tech guy hopefully won't be very long doing that. So equipment is expensive, but there are good deals out there. Don't just jump in and go straight to, where can I think, John Lewis and buy it. Check it's what you need for the future, not just the now. This computer I've had for about 12 years. So I know, yeah, Denise is going, oh, well, but it's coming to the end of its life, and I know that. So it'll find a home somewhere else, I'm sure. Next slide, Angela. So I have three main areas of my business. Education is one of them. And I am very fortunate. I used to say lucky, but you put yourself where you want to be. And so I do a lot of UK education, which is diversifying and has done and will be this year, but also beyond. And if you look at the photos, you can see certainly in the middle, I'm wearing something very different. That is in Barbados, where I went last December to teach for a colleague. Which was fantastic, but rather hot for me, especially for teaching. The bottom left is China. You'll see again, different outfit because it's a different environment. And bottom right is India. And for me, it's not just about how I portray myself in my clothes, but also having great respect for the cultures I'm working with. What I wear one place, I wouldn't wear somewhere else. So it's being very aware of that. And that takes some looking into before you go. I always ask my host, what is and what isn't appropriate, as they usually do with me. Simple things like what would you and wouldn't you eat, but certainly being aware of where you're going. The reason I said diversify is the conference top left, which as you can see is called the National Back Exchange Conference. So that is for moving and handling nurses. I've never been invited before, so I'm doing a semi-practical because it's a hotel, so we can't set up a proper birth pool with water, but we'll do the closest we can for them because they say as nurses they get asked a lot about how can they safely look after a woman if they need to get her out, particularly in an emergency, which is rare, but it can happen. How would they safely get the woman out the pool? And then on the right is another one, which I just did on Zoom last year, but this year I'm going, and it's to Brazil. And it's called Ciaparte. It's a big conference, lots of doctors. I do teach whoever, doctors, doulas, nurses, students, midwives, obviously, parents. But this will be my first time in a big audience, and I know it's big from last year's on Zoom, so that's going to be interesting. Long way to fly, but I shall go and hopefully get some other teaching as well. Thank you, Angela. So again, Denise has mentioned some of these, but data protection, very, very important. And what we have in the UK with the GDPR legislation is different to what they have abroad. So if, like myself and Denise, we both work abroad, you need to be very aware where the data protection is. If people email you, you do need to get permission, even in this country, of course, to hold on to those emails. So that's something we've built in with my web designer into the new website. So if people go via the website by putting an inquiry into it for whatever role, that by default means they've given permission. If you subscribe for the newsletter, and subscribe doesn't mean pay, it's just how it's written, then by default, again, you've actually said, I'm happy for me to have your email address. And that was something I learned quite early on. Denise mentioned, and I will briefly, conflict of interest. Certainly when I started, I was teaching water births both in the hospital, but I was also teaching a lot externally. And I declared that when I went to a different hospital when the business started. I was very open, very honest, and said, you know, this is what I'm doing, and therefore there may be, but they didn't find there was any conflict at all. So that was useful. Ongoing education, again, Denise mentioned, but for me, because of my different types of job, I have to do not just my normal professional, but I have to do legal education, as you'll see in a moment, and also business education. So there is a lot to it. As Denise said, this is not an easy option, depending on, you know, which avenue you go down with running a business. We mentioned the dreaded tax returns, but you do have to do them, and it varies from practitioner to practitioner. I do my own tax returns out of interest. I've always done my husband's as well. So tax returns, because I'm a sole trader, is probably easier than I'm sure Denise's would be. But, you know, you have to work that through, what works for you. I don't find them a problem. I'm very efficient. As soon as I come back from anything, I'm on doing my monthly accounts, and I keep, I think Denise and Sue knows this, I love coffee. So every cup of coffee I buy, I keep the receipts. So usually that's the hardest thing, adding all the receipts up at the end, because this is my subsistence away from my workplace. You know, in the NHS, you hopefully get the chance just to go to the kitchen where you work and have a cup of coffee. Well, yes, I can do that here, but if I'm out in the big wide world, I have to buy what I want. So subsistence is also important. And the final one for me is DBS checks, police checks as they used to be called. They're not expensive. They're about, I think I'm just about to pay for next year's. I think it's £13 or £16 a year, but you should register. And obviously, yes, we do. Next slide, Angela. So this is another of my roles. I do legal work for both the NHS and also for private solicitors. I suppose the good news for me, I hope that's because I'm selective in which cases I accept. And that means sometimes saying I don't believe there is a case. I do that a lot as well, sadly, where parents think there's a case, but in my professional opinion, there isn't. But also the main thing is not working out your scope of practice. Solicitors and barristers are very good at business. Very good. They're often big companies with lots of people behind them. So I think you have to be initially very, very strict about what is your known scope of practice. I know what mine is, and therefore I know, what can I think as an example? I wouldn't do anything about screening. I've never been a screening midwife. I can tell you, you know, the basics that we all know as midwives, but I'm not an expert in neonatal screening. So I would never do a screening legal case. So yes, working within your scope of practice. And you can see hopefully in that photo, that's one of the expert witness conferences that are run every year up in Westminster, sitting there very cool, but in a very different outfit to what you've seen with the other things. That's sort of my more business thing. because the people who are going to be there are going to be other experts in other fields, but also the people who go to support it, who are the display people, solicitors, barristers. So I need to, I believe, portray a very different image to what I might have done in China or wherever I am. Thank you, Angela. So what's my best advice? I always think about what's my greatest achievement, and that's been for me selling my services worldwide. Denise said it, you know, there is a money attached to this, but don't rush into it and spend loads and loads of money until you've got your head round where your money's coming in and what needs to go out. I put there my parents because they're both passed away, but I know my parents will be very proud of me, as are, as I said, the rest of my family. Oh, my biggest mistake, not using social media properly, because to be fair, I did my nursing in 1977, qualified in 1980, my midwifery 82 and qualified in 83. Social media was barely there. It may be second nature or even first nature to many of you, but it wasn't for us. We've had to learn and trying to keep up with everything. So that's where you rely on other people. And I've just started to use Instagram, and I've got people helping me with that because I'm rubbish with Instagram, not getting my head around it at all yet. Has my business evolved? Yes, it's diversified, and it continues to diversify, and I suspect it will for as long as I want to run the business. I'm watching the time. Next slide, Angelo, please. Again, some overlap. What's the best thing about working for yourself? Definitely deciding when and how to work and having control over that. Certainly being organised. I'm an old-fashioned lady. I still have a diary and this will hopefully make some of you laugh. It's all colour-coded because then I know yellow's holiday. That's the most important thing. But it's all colour-coded so I can get my head round where I'm going to be. And if I'm away teaching, I need, even in the UK, the day before to get there, the day when I get back, because sometimes I don't get back till 10, 11 at night. And if it's a flight, it can be even later. So I make sure those 2 days are clear. And colour coding is my brainwave of how I do it. Causes the most difficulty? Not planning time, because I think I'm getting good at that now, but the regular wage issue. That's what Denise said about making sure, please, you know what's coming in and what's going out. And yes, please put money aside for contingencies and or yes, for that horrible tax bill. I mean, you do have plenty of time, but it's no good, you know, scribbling around on the last couple of days before the tax man's going to say, where's your money? What advice would I give to someone else? Well, the advice I was given, you know, talk to other people and colleagues who are in business. I got a lot of advice in the days when the local council used to run, you know, startup, set up your own business, and met people from all different disciplines, mechanics, ladies who wanted to start flower shops, you name it. And that was really good, because they see things at such a different angle. The NHS, I feel, is so insular and always has been. When you're outside, there's this big wide world out here. So that's what I went to. Have a look, see if there's anything still like that going on. Next slide. Thank you. And that's my final role, acting as a consultant. The newest thing I've started to do is help people design or redesign their pool rooms. That photograph is from University Hospital in Hong Kong. They had the room with the most amazing view, if you can see it, looking outside Hong Kong Harbour. And they had a pool, but they hadn't quite worked out where everything was going. So this is a new project that I've launched in the last couple of weeks, just to help people, because I've seen some fantastic pool rooms everywhere, all around the world, but I've sadly seen some atrocious ones as well, where the pool's being put in. There's been no discussion with the practitioners who are going to be working there, and the pool rooms are just not fit for purpose. It really is as simple as that. So that's something I've started to offer. Lots of different companies I work with in different advisory capacities and consultancy passages. Maternity Midwifery Forum, who I do work with, Sue and her colleagues. Different pool companies, quite a few of those in the UK. I'm a trustee, something else you may have never thought of. But if you want to look at widen your horizons and put a little toe into a different pool, think about being a trustee. I'm a trustee for Action on Preeclampsia, which was always a passion of mine as a clinician. And I just meet some amazing people. That was in Scotland recently, where we had the Scottish Health Minister come along, and Andy Shannon, who's one of our major medical trustees. Again, I just stand in awe of some of these people, and that's good. It makes you stand back and look at yourself. And then the final bit of that consultancy is abroad. I work with Midwifery Today, who are a journal conference organisers, but I do book reviews. Because one of the ways I relax is to read books, but I love medical books. So there's just a tiny selection there. The two at the front, Born Stroppy by Ruth Weston. If you've never read any of Ruth's work, it's great. I'm working my way through it at the moment. And the other is Breaking the Taboo, which is about birth trauma. So I tend to write the reviews. I hang on to them for a couple of months. And then to get that information out again, I then passed it on to my local library where I used to work at the local hospital. So they benefit from books that probably they would never think, and the library would probably never think of buying. So it goes around in circles, and I'm proud of being able to do that for them. And just the final one, Angelo, which will be a thank you and goodbye from me. Thank you. There it is. And again, like Denise said, you're very welcome to contact me. I'm trying to get people now to use the website for the contacts rather than getting lots on personal emails. But I'll either redirect people or deal with it and then say, if you want to contact me again, you can go via the website. And that's my story.